Stand by your beds, everybody, because Ronan has picked his test selection for the first test in Brisbane next week. We've been talking a lot about social media reactions. I reckon if this is announced by Andy Farrell later this week, a lot of people will talk. But take us through it first of all. And there's a lot of logic to some of the big decisions that you've made. In it comes.
No. Yeah, well, I suppose the first thing is where's Tadhg Furlong and where's Dan Sheehan? For me, they're the two best in the world in their position, so I'd like to finish the game with them just to have that security, to know that a test game is usually won in the last 8 to 12 minutes because it's rarely you're 2 scores ahead. So in that regard, I kind of went with that logic. Porter's an exceptional loose head. I think that's an area of massive strength. Familiarity in the back row, because I think the impact of Ben Earl and Henry Pollock just adds an awful lot to it, with probably the benefit of them covering as centres as well. I think I like what they do as hybrids.
Yep.
And then in the backs, it's pretty straightforward. There's obviously a big debate in terms of who do you play at 12 if you're going with Hugh Jones, with Gary Ringrose ruled out through injury. Do you go to Pilato or do you go Bundy Aki? There's you could go either way.
Yep. Is it a gamble that we've had Aki and Tuipulotu against Argentina? We've then had, I think, Ireland combination Scotland, Ireland, Scotland. These two haven't yet played together. And to stick them into a first test against the Joe Schmidt Wallaby outfit, how big a gamble is that?
Yeah, or do you back yourself and just go boy, go play, show what you're good at? I think he's the best in the world at winning again. I think he gives front football. I think he makes the front five kind of get on the ball on the second phase with winning a gain line, and then I think the game is so much easier when you win collisions. So it can be picked apart, obviously, but I just think that for me, I prefer to finish with the strongest 15 as opposed to starting with it. But maybe Sheehan and Furlong can go 80 minutes. So
yep.
There's tiny margins. Mac Hansen is probably the familiarity with Keenan and Lowe. Yeah.
But when you say go boy go, Anthony, talk us through Hugh Jones and the form that he has shown on this tour so far. How much would you like to be playing outside him?
Yeah, he looks electric. I think ball in hand, we've seen so much from this tour, not just hitting lines off Tuipulotu, but the outside break that we saw today, and we've seen in previous games. I think he's kind of got that Energizer bunny about him whenever he touches the ball, which kind of, gets people around him excited as well. So it's not just about him, it's about the impact he has on people around him, and I think he's been a real positive impact.
Okay, just the role of Finn, we'll come on to the bench in just a moment, just the role of Finn Russell as well, just very quickly in terms of the control that you think he has shown.
Yeah, I think he's shown control. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, but I think you could probably say that across the board. I think the ceiling for Finn and a number of these players is so high. I think Finn arguably, especially if you look at if it goes the way that Rodgers is going or whoever's there, if Finn goes down, it changes probably quite a lot of how they would want to play the game.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that maybe Mark Smith hasn't had much game time at 10, so maybe isn't in their thought process for playing 10. And then it's a lot for Finn Smith to come in and have 8-9 caps to then steer a test series. So Finn's role is huge, but I think he's shown over the last certainly 18-24 months with Bath, with Scotland, that his ability, whatever the style of game needs to be, he has the tools at his disposal, whether it's using kicking game, using the power game. If it needs a moment of magic, that's clearly there as well.
It's a pretty meaty bench that you have picked as well. Lots of people will certainly have their eye drawn by number 23, but just tell us through the impact that you think this could have if Andy Farrell goes with it.
Andy Farrell won't go with it.
We'll send it to him, don't worry.
No, but I just think it's like, I think you have no idea when you look into someone's eyes in a test game after 43 minutes and you see Dan Sheehan come on. Imagine what that does to the opposition. Imagine the loosehead prop seeing Furlong after 42 minutes. Imagine the tight head seeing Porter. Imagine, oh God, you got Ben Earl carrying the ball. You just got to make sure that you know what the role of the starters is when you've got a 6-2 loaded. If Kinghorn was probably available, I probably would have gone 7-1 with him being able to cover the number 10 position.
Right.
Because he goal kicks really well for Toulouse, and then obviously, if I was picking it, I obviously would have had probably Jack Willis starting it, and I had Sinclair in the 23 as well. But
okay.
I'm not picking it.
No, we've gone with what we've got. I mean, it's a fascinating selection. If that does come out, certainly the collection of players is on that Lions squad list come later this week. Are you happy with that? Is there anyone there that should be that isn't?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to disagree with someone who's won the Champions Cup. Was it 1 or 2 years in a row, Rog? 2 years in a row.
Don't forget it.
I'm just wondering. I'm listening to Rog, and I'm just wondering if Wales have actually finalised their head coach. You know, it makes a lot of sense. But
not enough cash in Wales.
No, you can't really argue that. When you hear that rationale, I think it is. I've been a player if you're playing the All Blacks or someone when they were in their pomp and they make a whole host of changes at 45, and the guys that come on, the opposition see that and go, oh. You know that the speed of the game, the intensity goes up, which it did in the series we played in 17. The last 20 minutes were quicker than the first or any other 20-minute section in the start of the game. So you're finishing the game strong. So it makes good sense, and I like this 2 back row selection. I think we're going to go 2 back rows, Earl and Pollock. And I think I go with those 2 boys in the back row. The energy that they would bring, I think, would be much needed.
Very quickly, as a quartet, is anyone unhappy with 23? Anyone drawing a breath? You're happy with Owen there?
No, I think that on Roger's point, about bringing on Sheehan, Porter and Furlong, I think that Owen has the exact same impact. I think if there's a goal kick to win it, or there's 10 minutes to go and you want someone to goal kick, I don't care how much he's goal kicked in the last 4 weeks, I'm putting the ball in his hands every day of the week.
You all right with that?
Completely.
Good.
I think a little bit light in back 3 coverage if something we've seen down to third choice, arguably with Hugh Keenan with the injuries, but you can't cover everywhere, and you've got to back your horses.
Interesting with that, I think. I don't know what your thoughts would be on, but I think Van der Fleer has played a bit on the wing for Leinster. He certainly has the option of throwing in the ball from the line, obviously, but that's a different skill. But you could easily play Earl at 12, Van der Fleer on the wing, because they're just back rows, or you're a different breed. You're brave.
Well, they weren't back when I played.
Pollock out there.
I think it's fascinating though, just seeing Rassie Erasmus do it with Esterhazen and put that interchangeability. And if you put 12 or on one of these guys back with Earl or Pollock, would they look out of place? Probably not. I think they'd be all right.
Yeah.
The danger with it obviously is that if Australia start fast and they go 10-0 up, and you're kind of going, okay, well, Furlong and Sheehan and Porter don't have that requirement, that basically, because if you get on top of the scrum, it puts a different picture in the referee's head. So scrum dominance usually equals game dominance, which means that you probably get the advantage in creating your mauls. So these guys have an advantage up front. But I'm sure, I don't know Stewart and I don't know Genge particularly well, but as players, they look very, very impressive. So you got them, in the modern game, 6 forwards play all the time, front rows.
Yeah.
So how do you get the best out of them?
Yeah.
And that's up to, I suppose,
Okay. Ifs, buts and maybes. Who'd be a coach? I tell you what we are going to do, because we are talking Owen Farrell here, and you're all united in happily having him on the bench. Dan, you were slightly, what's the right word? You were questioning of his selection when he was called in. From what you've seen, from what you've heard in and around the camp, are you happy that Owen Farrell is ready for a test match spot, even if on the bench, or are you still questioning it?
No, I didn't question his ability in the squad. I questioned the timing of it in terms of replacing Elliot Daly for a guy who plays 15, 11 and 13 for a guy who plays 10 and 12. That was my question on it, Al. I think he looked really good tonight, Owen, in terms of, I thought Roger's point in terms of he moved the ball really well and the ball was better than him in that sense. And I think he just looked, he's a world-class operator. You pick him on a 6-2 bench, John, I think John made the point that you are light in terms of your back 3. If you get a back 3 injury, you haven't got Gary Ringrose, probably from what it sounds like from Andy Farrell's interview, to go and cover the wings. So you're relying on a little bit of luck whenever you go 6-2 or 7-1. You need that little bit of luck from an injury point of view. But I think, he looked good. As Rog said again, there's clearly next Saturday is going to be a step up. A huge step up compared to tonight. I thought the Lions were disciplined, they were accurate, and they made this AU-NZ side look quite ordinary, considering they've got some really good players in that team. Just a little bit on Roger's team in terms of who do you start with, who do you think? And the logic in what Roger's saying is absolutely top notch. But I think Australia have got a really good record in Suncorp in Brisbane. They tend to start really well there, get on top in terms of, and I think what the Lions will want to do, they won't want to give the Aussies any ins to the game. And I think that's why I think they will start with their strongest possible front row, second row, back row, whatever it is, and try and take the game away from them, try and eke out a few scrum penalties, breakdown penalties, whatever it is, and just try and take the game away from them rather than invite them into the game a little bit, or potentially invite them into the game.
Would you like a right of reply?
No, I think we all see it very differently, and especially, You mean working with coaches as you go along the journey, you kind of understand that the front five don't think anyway. Like, I see the game as a number 10. That's why you need the assistance of your forwards coach or your D coach, because he actually makes you aware of, Roger, these guys actually don't think like that. We need to you need to speak to them like this, because we need to share strengths to get better as a group. And that's, for me, is the fascinating aspect of coaching and why it's so interesting. But I think what we have to probably respect is what Sione said. I think everyone benefits if the Lions get it right. So in that regard, if you're outside of the 23, how do you set up your team to succeed during the week? It means that your training Tuesday and Thursday is really important, because if the Lions get the test series, the whole group wins. If they don't get it, everyone loses and the reputation is tarnished a little bit. So in terms of, I suppose, what's involved in the group, there's a lot more than you'd expect in terms of how the kind of non-23 prepare the team to go to battle on Saturday. And that is, from talking to Paul O'Connell and talking to a lot of guys associated with Ireland, that's Andy Farrell's major strength, is that he has the capacity, I think, to bring a group together like no other coach.